Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Play Great Ace Attorney 2, Ryunosuke's Resolve. This is V-Diffuser. In our last episode, we found out that Shamspeare's been hiding some things underneath his apartment. And apparently, there's some bizarre reason that Barak von Zeeks hates the Japanese, but Sherlock isn't telling. Because apparently, it's confidential. So what do you say we get down to the bottom of this? Alright. Looks like this was cut out of the paper about 3 months ago. It's about a convict who got sick and died while he was serving time up in Manchester. How terrible. It made the headlines down here in London as well. Bloke had been sentenced to death, you see, but nature got him first. Oh my goodness, he committed a capital offence? A man by the name of Selden. Nasty piece of work into burglaries and murder. I say the hoard he'd knocked off was worth about £1,000. A hoard? Of treasure, you mean? Jewellery and the like. But he'd hidden it somewhere, and no one knows where. And now he's dead. The papers loved it, of course. £1,000 lost on route to hell, or some such was the headline. Does it not strike you, though? Why such an article would be so carefully ensconced under the floor? Shamspeare's looking for it. I suppose now you mention it, it does seem a bit odd. Perhaps I'll go over the paperwork we've got in Selden back in the yard and see if I can turn anything up. Photographic print. So, this is the photograph I found, which reasonably we've seen that guy before. Yes, it would appear to have been taken on the street in front of the house here. And the gentleman on the left is Mr. Garadeb, the landlord, of course. But who's the young man on the right? Mr. Garadeb's son, perhaps? Yes, you can take that print if you like. Really, are you sure? We can presume, therefore, that the yard already knows. The identity of the young fellow, that is. Is that true? Phew. Well, it's too bad if we do. Unfortunately for you lot, leaking information isn't one of my pastimes. You do it really well, though. In fact, you'd do it if Iris asked. My dear Inspector, if I may be so bold as to point something out. Pastimes are for one's leisure, but this is for work. All the more reason I'm not telling you. A dismal failure. Yes, I heard. I wonder why a photograph like this was hidden under the floor. I mean, Mr. Shamspeare himself isn't in it. Photographic prints are still rare treasures in the East End. I imagine Mr. Garadeb was rather delighted to have been immortalized. He probably made a proud present of it. Except, that's not Shamspeare in it. This box looks interesting, doesn't it? Might I suggest, Inspector, that you open it? If you were to find something inside that reveals the truth behind this case, I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised. Yeah, funny enough, I've already had a look. It's completely empty. What? Shamspeare? Give us a clue, man! You didn't even have the chance to utter a word, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, at least we found out what's inside the box. Yeah, thin air. It's empty. Rather like how I feel inside. Is there nothing more to this box, then? I wonder. Ah, there's Wagahai. Oh look, it's that lovely little kitty cat. What was its name? It's Mr. Natsume's, isn't it? I don't think we ever asked him, actually. Why do we call it a Wagahai? You know, like Mr. Natsume refers to himself in Japanese. Well, there's where the name comes. After all, Mr. Natsume is best known for making the book I Am a Cat, Wagahai. I don't remember how it is in Japanese. It is also the reason why Morgana in Persona 5 uses that pronoun. I wonder how he got in here. Clever cat. Oh, wonderful. Well then, Wagahai, here's something delicious I brought you from the cat's meat man. Not to be a buzzkill, but that looks like a brain. He couldn't be happier now. Look, I just hope we can bring some happiness to his owner, too. Okay, so we have that. It's time for us to move and head to prison. Mr. Natsume's back. So he is. Mr. Natsume, hello. I am a cat. Well, what did I tell you? Sorry? I don't know who Mr. Natsume is. Or Herlock Sholmes. I don't know any about courts or trials or Old Baileys. I am a cat. That's what I am. Just a cat. Mr. Naruhodo, he's trying to escape from reality. Trying to? He already has. Completely. So, what is your name then? As yet, I have no name. He hasn't fully thought out his new identity. Maybe it's not too late to bring him back to reality. Do you think you could open your eyes for us, Mr. Natsume? Not gonna lie, I was half expecting some Doki Doki Literature Panic shit. I am not a cat. It worked! He's back in the real world. Well, what's gonna become of me? No! Don't answer that! It's obvious! My accursed soul is never gonna be able to escape this accursed fate. This morning's proceedings in court prove there's hope. Yes, yes, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire was brilliant, but... The Reaper is omnipresent, in court, in my lodgings. Here, there, everywhere. What's he looking straight at me for? I think perhaps there are some things we should discuss. Oh, yes. Yes, we must. Yeah, my Inferno voice is getting a lot of workout for Mr. Shamspear. In my whole life, have I ever been so moved as I was today? No! Of course, if I cast my mind back, there were perhaps one or two other occasions that moved me more. What if I block those out then today? Being in a courtroom it was the most moving experience of my life, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. You're too kind. Scotland Yard found the remaining tea just as we deduced, and are analyzing it as we speak. There's nothing wrong with that tea. They won't find a drop of poison in it. That's a solemn sworn Sosuke certainty. Tell me, did you both drink the tea at the same time that night? Oh yes, most definitely. Remember, drink tea while it's hot. We both poured it down our throats like it was a hot bath from our bellies. At the time, you were both completely fine, as shown by the fact that he and Mr. Shamspear then engaged in the Romeo and Juliet cage match. I suppose the focus of tomorrow's proceedings will be how the poison was taken by the victim. That rotten Shamspear! What have I ever done to him? You don't recall him taking issue with you over anything you've done recently? I've been holed up in my room, immersed in books. I don't recall anything. Anything at all. Right. But what I don't understand is why you didn't let me know sooner. Well, you know what, Mr. Natsume? About the soap, of course. What else? Oh dear. Are you struggling with such a meager stipend? Of course I am. If I had money, I wouldn't have chosen to live in a cursed existence in such accursed lodgings. Oh yes, you said it's because the place is cursed that it's so cheap, didn't you? Exactly! Especially the room that I rent. The spirit of that capital offender who lived there still haunts the place. And it's trying to kill me! Capital offender? Might I ask most locum student Mr. Naruhodo for that the next time you visit me? You bring scores of super soft soaps? Alrighty then. I'll humor you. What's this? It's a newspaper cutting that we found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. Ah, so he knew, did he? Sorry. About this man, Selden, a convicted killer, and the evil spirit behind the curse that afflicts my lodgings. What? He's already taken one young man's life, and now he's trying to take the life of another. A miserable, mustached, much maligned Japanese man. Mr. Natsume, if you know something, please, you must tell us. Tell us everything you can about this evil spirit. Capital offender, Selden. The truth is, I didn't know the details myself until very recently. That Selden man was arrested about a year ago now. And at the time, he was hiding out in lodgings at Mr. Garadeb's house. He lived where you do now? That's right, yes. Exactly where I live now. In my very room. Oh my. Your room was previously occupied by a criminal found guilty of capital offense. But before his sentence could be carried out, he died in prison. That was 3 months ago now. And that's when it started. The curse! What really is this curse you keep mentioning, Mr. Natsume? It's already caused one death, a few months after the criminal passed away in prison. A man died in the room. The man who rented it after Selden, in fact. The poor lodger. He was found dead in mysterious circumstances. The room was locked from the inside. Exactly like the case we're dealing with now. So that's the convict's curse, is it? Yes, well, that was the start of it. Do you have any idea how the lodger before you passed away, Mr. Natsume? The official cause of death was asphyxia. When I discovered the body, the room was full of gas. Gas? I only found that out after I'd signed the lease. When Mr. Garadeb came to tell me later, I couldn't stop myself trembling. In fact, if I'd known beforehand, I'd probably have been too scared to take the room. Landlord's please, luckily, legal! Luckily for Mr. Garadeb, maybe. Not so lucky for poor Mr. Natsume. And now you believe this curse is affecting you. It is. It is! At first, I just felt as though I was being watched. All the time. Then you talked about having nightmares, didn't you? The other trying to take me with them. They come for me and try to suffocate me. Just when I'm struggling to breathe, I wake up. And the room is as cold as ice. Well, why is your room so cold? London winters are too cold to bear without any heating or overnight. But for some reason, even though I light the stove before I climb into bed at night, the pilot light always goes out and the room fills with gas. But that's terrible. That's exactly the same situation as what led to the previous occupant's death. remembers what happened to Mr. Shakespeare last night, where he was just mysteriously poisoned. Someone's trying to poison Natsume. There's clearly more to that incident that can be explained by a curse, though. What could be the cause of all these strange happenings in Mr. Garadeb's room? We'll have to go and ask. There he is. Oh, you're here now, Mr. Garadeb. Right, probably business it is for me, you know. Getting out and about. Were you at the Old Bailey by any chance? Naturally, fate of my lodgings hanging in the balance of all that. Not a trial to miss. The fate of what's already been dubbed your haunted lodgings, yes. Of course, the place has caused quite a stir around the capital on more than one occasion already. As the old haunted lodgings or some such. Well, at least he knows. Makes you wonder what the blazes is going on, don't you? Yes, I'm sure it does. In fact, thinking back to Mr. Natsume's other trial just 2 days ago, you were at the Old Bailey then as well, weren't you? Testifying with your wife about what happened. Stopped off at the prison on the way home. In fact, beastly business. I see. So, what brings you to my haunted abode today, eh? You're supposed to be British, not Canadian. Some fishy fellow from the Far East, and a failed actor chap of questionable character, eh? Yes, the house does seem to have become something of a magnet for rum fellows of late. Thanks to the Bolly curse. The convict's curse, you mean? I heard the stories of you. Rotten scoundrel was arrested here, then the next chap in the room goes and keels over him. Then there was that woman who dropped dead just outside the street, not to mention the actor yesterday. And my next, eh? Well, can't help but get the collywobbles, can you? When you say the woman who dropped dead outside on the street, do you mean Miss Green? Because Miss Green, who was stabbed by the knife, and Mr. Shakespeare, who was poisoned last night, are both very much alive still. Yeah, well, so's a blessed convict's curse, it seems. Personally, I should be quite content with such logging, little Jeans. A bath, a toilet, a fireplace, fascinating history. Why, it sounds like the lap of luxury. Shit, I'm not so sure about that. Well, there's no bath or toilet included, and no fireplace either. But you do look out for your tenants, don't you? By watching the rise and fall of the flames in your gas lamps up there. Yes, never hurts to keep an eye on things, in case there are any mishaps or such like. I think you've had your mishap already, sir. That's not helpful, Mr. Sholmes. Heaven forgive me, the words just came to my lips. His reaction is pretty much mine. Some fishy fella from the Far East. What the? Didn't I already do this? There's no need for that, Mr. Garadeb. That's right, Mr. Natsume is in no way fishy. He is undeniably peculiar, however. And is it right that he took vacancy immediately after the previous tenant passed away? Yes, that's right. I asked the estate agent to find someone and he popped up the very same day. Never come across a chap so keen for a place with a background, as it were. I don't think it was the room's background he was keen on so much as it was the cheap rent, actually. So, how long has Mr. Shakespeare been lodging under your roof? That failed actor chap. Let me see. Of course. It's been about 3 months now. Quite sure of it. Only 3 months. He's quite new here, then. And to what do you owe your certainty in that regard, Mr. Kieradeb, if I might ask? Well, it was that Selden scoundrel, as it happens. Selden? Convict, you mean? So Selden and Shamsby are some kind of connection, then. Our convict chap, Selden, passed away here in the clink 3 months ago, you see. Some malady or other. Yeah, we've seen the report from the newspaper at the time. Well, it was only 3 days later that the tragedian showed his face. The actor fellow. Really? Yes, I remember quite distinctly. 'Tis small this world we inhabit. Prithee, landlord, hear my request. I, the humble Shamspear, do desire to take thy room on the middle floor. Offer a dear while for rent. Terribly sorry and whatnot, but that won't be possible. Already have a lodger on the middle floor. Ground floor room's vacant, though. Nothing can be made out of nothing. Let me repeat mine will unto thee. Those curs must be muffling your ears. The room on the middle floor's taken. It's ground floor nothing. Very well. We have an accord. Glad to hear it. Welcome to Broadway. Hello, Shamspear dance to celebrate. Hee hee ha ha ho ho he he. What even is this guy? From what I heard in court today, sounds like the chap was thieving gas. And he was 3 months in arrears with a rent too. That fellow is a bally player, all right. Thank you for your candor, Mr. Kieradeb. We are most grateful. By way of appreciation, allow me to say 1 or 2 words. Give me my robe, put on my crown. I have immortal longings in me. Are you trying to be a cat? You look like you're doing the Nekomata pose from Shin Megami Tensei 3. Shakespeare, my dear fellow, one of his most famous lines. I wish to divulge my own learning of the subject, for I have a turn for literature too, you know. Perhaps you could turn your attention to more apt lines then. Alrighty. Let's see if we can present that picture with this guy. Mr. Kieradeb, could I ask you to look at this photograph? Is that your son with you there? Oh, no, not at all. He was a lodger here once. Duncan Ross was his name. Duncan Ross. A street photographer happened to be passing, so I asked him to take a shot. Just for kicks, really. Was he by any chance the lodger before Mr. Natsume? Yes, that's right. Ah, the young gentleman who died in the room in mysterious circumstances. Just what Mr. Mustache was waiting for, one might say. Yes, young Duncan lived in the room at the top of the first flight of stairs before that Japanese chap. Would you mind telling us a little more about him? Yes, Duncan Ross. Young chap was attending art school. Had to work to pay for it, mind. Moved into the middle floor room about a year ago, after that criminal Selden was arrested. Young students are always on the hunt for rooms with a history behind them. A history of cheap rent, maybe, yes. Yes, well, anyway, it was one morning about a month ago now. I'd quite worked out the old trick of watching the gas lamps to see what my lodgers were up to at the time. So sadly, I was rather tardy to discover what had happened. The smell of gas that alerted me it was. Ah yes, synonymous with the smell of death. Called the police straight away, of course, and the officer who kicked the door off its hinges. And once we got inside, we all barely collapsed. Because of the gas? Yeah, room was full of it. Nowhere at all. Stove must have gone out when the poor chap was sleeping on his bed. So Mr. Ross suffocated to death. Of course, the police gave me a sound ticking off because the gas pipes were older than that. Can't you tell how much it sent me back to have the lot replaced all over the house? But even if you had all that work done, Mr. Natsume says the same thing. That the stove goes out at night while he's asleep in bed. Well, that's a bully curse! A convict's curse! I've done my duty as a landlord now. Someone's feeling defensive. Ah, that reminds me, actually. Yes? About young Duncan, the night before the poor chap perished. You'd been writing a letter. A letter of affection to a young lady. A love letter, you mean? Yes. Where did I put it now? Ah, here it is. Left it on my desk. If you'll excuse me, let me see now. What does it say? To my most beautiful and charming sweetheart. Do you think that you should be reading such a personal piece of correspondence? My dear Miss Susato, that is precisely why I prefaced my reading with, if you'll excuse me. I will not excuse you, Mr. Sholmes. No! Alright, Susato. Give him a judo toss. Sadly, he didn't address it, though. I've no means of delivering the thing. Rather sad, really. That's gonna play on my mind. But really, the identity of Mrs. Ross's sweetheart has no bearing on the case. I wouldn't be so sure. However, there is a name attributed to the man's most beautiful and charming sweetheart. Mr. Sholmes, please, I've already had to chastise you about this once. My undying love to you, my colorful darling, olive green. I told you. Olive green? The woman who was plunged into a coma after a knife plunged into her back outside this house 5 days ago. The victim of the last case Sosuke-san was in court for, who regained consciousness only yesterday. Is it just chance that her name come out now? It means we're getting more to figure it out. Alrighty, time to move. Mr. Naruhodo, I've just finished speaking with the doctor. It seems Miss Green is well enough to be discharged at last. Oh, that's good. Just before she leaves. Ah! What is it? What are you doing? Miss Green! I know what you were doing. One moment. I'll be with you in a jiffy. What are you doing here? The doctor said I can be discharged, so I'm just getting my things together. You're doing more than that. Nothing really. Just about to take some medicine the doctor prescribed for me, that's all. Well, we were hoping to have another quick chat with you, if that's alright. I don't really have anything else to tell you. Alright then. Have it your way. We can get it out of you anyway. We have evidence. Hospital discharge. It's wonderful news you're going to be discharged, Miss Green. Oh yes, thank you. Once people are better, the hospital staff don't want them lingering and wasting space. Not people like me, anyway. I don't think I should keep anyone waiting. I probably shouldn't stand around and chat. He certainly doesn't seem to be in the mood to talk. That's for sure. Well, let's see if this doesn't do anything. Miss Green, we were hoping to ask you about someone. Mr. Duncan Ross. You knew him, didn't you? Oh no! I'm so sorry! The bottle of medicine fell down when she did. Miss Green! Are you alright? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you like that. No, it's alright. I just wasn't expecting it. But how do you know about Duncan? Mr. Ross had been writing a letter when he passed away. The landlord found it in his room. It was a very personal letter to you. I was at the art school. That's what I meant, Duncan. A year ago now. He was working to fund his studies. He dreamt of becoming a professional artist one day. And the two of you became romantically involved. Yes, that's right. We were very much in love. We were engaged to be married, actually. That's why he decided to move into a cheaper room. To save money for the wedding. And that's what led him to Mr. Garrideb's. He told me he found the worst but cheapest room in the entire East End. And then 1 moment ago, that's when it happened. We're so terribly sorry, Miss Green. That's rough. Well, it's all in the past now, I suppose. Is it now? Poor Miss Green. She looks desperately sad. I was starting to think she'd just her look. But now I see that she has every reason to feel the universe is against her. I do hope you won't think I'm being rude, but... would you mind leaving me in peace now? I have to leave the hospital soon. We didn't mean to hold you up. We'll be on our way. Mr. Naruhodo! Surely you are not about to leave. That's quite out of the question. What? Mr. Sholmes! I didn't realize you were here. But of course I was, my dear fellow. Watching intently from the shadows as always. We'll make your presence known next time. Mr. Sholmes, what's this about? Something that occurred to me with some regularity, Miss Susato, is this. Why do detectives insist on such ex post facto modus operandi? Why solve a case after it's happened, instead of preventing a case before it happens? What's a sense of great detective? I think I see that rat down there. The rat's dead. Oh no. Really? That mouse seems to be dead. Look, I didn't notice it there before, did you? I think perhaps it drank the medicine that spilled out of the bottle. That's not medicine, that's poison. But that's the bottle that Miss Green was about to drink from when we arrived. You don't think... I see you've come to appreciate the true nature of the scene. That of a tragedy about to take place. Yes, I think it's falling into place. Miss Green, the contents of that bottle you had before has spilled out on the floor. And the poor mouse that drank it has sadly died. I think it's clear that the bottle must have contained powerful poison. Don't worry. I'll attend to the mouse presently. Miss Green, were you intending to go the same way as that rodent? To take your own life? Ah! Once we'd left, you would have put it to your lips again, wouldn't you? And taken the poison. No! Miss Green, please, talk to us. Seconds later, and we would have arrived at a very different scene here. In all probability, we would not have enjoyed this most delightful conversation. Of course, perhaps it hasn't been quite so delightful from your perspective, Miss Green. Actually, in a way, now that everything's out in the open, I feel like our weight's been lifted. Tell me, how did you acquire that medicine? Well, with this being a hospital and all, when the doctor comes to examine me in the mornings, he always leaves the medicine cabinet open for a while, so I snuck this out when he wasn't looking. It conspicuously lacks a label. I wonder what it contains. I'm afraid I don't really know, but I thought if I drank it, it might just stop the pain somehow. Oh, please, Miss Green, don't talk of such things. Well, it seems clear now that it contains poison. A poor little mouse is proof of that. Oh no. It was all my fault. What have I done? I shall remove this to my office, Miss Green. I take it you have no objection. No, none. It definitely feels as though this card must be relevant. First arrived, Miss Green was standing with it in her hand. Yes, it may very well be related to whatever incident Mr. Sholmes believed was about to happen here. Neither the sender's name or address appeared to be written on the envelopes of the card. It arrived by post in my home the day before the incident that put me in the hospital here. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. We know where the... Come to the Slug and the Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. We found that other envelope piece. Wait a minute. The 17th of this month? That's the day you were stabbed on Briar Road. And 5 p.m. is precisely the time when the incident occurred. The Slug and the Salad, yes. A pub on the northern corner of Briar Road. Being the street that Garrett's house is on. Does this mean that... Yes, I'm sure you've guessed. That day, when I was struck in the back by the knife, I was actually on my way to the Slug and Salad. Goodness. So that's what you were doing on Briar Road that day. I'm sorry I didn't say anything before. I think I really will have to ask you to excuse me now. I've told you everything. I'm very sorry to have had to drag up such painful memories for you. No, it's fine. Miss Green, please promise us you won't try to do anything like that again. Yes, don't worry. Your detective friend is a bottle now anyway. And besides, I've been stabbed in the back and had a close shave with a bottle of poison. And I'm still here. I think I'm destined to see things through to the end. I might sound a little conceited, but well, that's how all this has all made me feel. Leaving Miss Green and Miss St. Bartholomew's behind, we made our way back to Baker Street with Mr. Sholmes. Well, it would appear we've reached the end of the investigative trail for today. It's late. And Mr. Naruhodo, did you discover anything that may be of use to you in court tomorrow, do you think? Details about Mr. Shamspeare, Mr. Garrett's lodging, convict Selden. There are many facets to this case, and we're yet to see the heart of it, if you ask me. That's my feeling, anyway. I can't help wondering about the results of the analysis. In Mr. Natsume's tea, you mean? Will they have found any strychnine in it or not? Well, I fear that either way, it will be hard to escape the grip of our friend Mr. Reaper. Oh dear. Barak von Zeeks. I wish you every success, of course, and though I was late to rise this morning, Tomorrow will be a new dawn. I intend to spring from my bed at a crisp hour and attend the trial. You're gonna come? Indeed. Whatever happens, I shall be there. Assuming my eyelids cooperate in the morning. Well, I think we've done all we can. All that's left is to remain focused and keep fighting until the very end. This world's most prosperous city is home to 6 million people. But away from the razzle-dazzle down back alleys and behind bricked-up walls, the lonely lurk. Sosuke-san had battled long and hard with his loneliness during his many months here. And so I felt honor-bound to battle equally hard for my compatriot, to lift the curse that gripped him. As Mr. Sholmes said, tomorrow would be a new dawn. For all of us. And it's time for us to focus on next episode. So I will see you guys next time.